What's going on there, workforce? Chris here.
Brian here.
And it's time to compare some E3 console presentations.
So it's pretty much guaranteed that we're going to upset some of you.
Let's dive in. So we've broken down 6 different categories by which we can compare the 3 major consoles present at E3. And not necessarily the console itself, but the entire presentation given by Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft with the Xbox.
And so those categories are the conference presentation overall, exclusive games, game reveals, interested games, games that like speak maybe to us personally. And this is, I think, probably going to be the most contested or controversial topic. Building the future, which as we talk about setting up for 2019 and 2020, yep. And then the overall score, who won E3. And now obviously focusing in on the console manufacturers, because when you look at the overall piece, I think we both agree Bethesda.
I think Bethesda did very well, but yeah. There is no Bethesda box.
Right.
So let's start off with conference presentation.
Yes.
Now the question here is, Brian, you wrote down this list of 6 things.
Yeah.
When you talk about conference presentation, do you feel that this is best described by the few people that get to be present in the room, the press that the presentation is targeted towards, or is this targeted towards the streamers, the hundreds of thousands of people worldwide that are seeing it?
So that's a great question, and I kind of feel there's kind of it goes both ways in this case. So for me, I look at it overall, like how was it enjoyed? Was it enjoyed more if you were there, or was it enjoyed more if you were watching it at home? And so from a technical perspective, from how it is just delivered, I think I'm going to leave that up to you for the best answer for you. And I'd love everybody to sound off below in the comments what they feel won in these 6 categories, because that would be great. And so we're going to give them a letter grade. And so to start off, I have to say for Microsoft and Nintendo, like it is like barely a point difference when it comes to those. So I give Nintendo an A, but I give Microsoft an A+, and I give Sony a C. Now, I'm betting if you were there personally, I would have given Sony a B, because just to how the screens and, like you said, IMAX is. But from the presentation overall, the only reason Xbox takes it for me in this case, Xbox fanboy, right, is the live presentation. Nintendo, flawless execution, but it's easy to edit that. It's easy to kind of sit here and say that. And maybe all conferences will go to their format at some point in the future. But when I look at Xbox live, how it was executed technically, how they delivered, how it was entertaining overall, that's why I give this one to Microsoft as a part of the conference presentation.
Okay.
How about you?
I would agree with you that Microsoft was the best. It was the most well-rounded of what an E3 experience should be in my mind. I feel Ubisoft is probably the bar there when what's to be expected. They literally just seem to have translated into a perfect list of everything you can expect out of a presentation and just checked them off on the clipboard. They're not going to wow anybody, but it's everything you wanted. And I think Xbox did that for me. I think they had a little bit of everything. They had a little bit of people talking. They had a little bit of game footage. They had a little bit of render. It was all there. Nintendo, I would give a B. It was perfect, but it's obvious that Dad helped you with your homework. It was perfectly edited, so when a video presentation is less than perfect, that's points against you. You don't get any points for having months to work on this.
Okay.
It passes because it has to be perfect. It was literally edited. There wasn't a single person... I don't know, seeing Miyamoto come on stage and talk about Star Fox in the other presentation felt more real to me than the Nintendo presentation. Okay. Not to say that video was anything less than incredible.
I yelled it more during the Nintendo video than any other presentation, but go ahead.
I would give the PlayStation a B as well, because I think that the video was there. I wish there'd been more gameplay for things other than Spider-Man, but I think they made up for it by everything they did for the people that were there in that moment. That room looked like it would have been incredible. The whole path of walking across those bridges and being kind of in this whole area and then going in and being all these big surround sound screens. I think they spent a lot of time thinking about how that video would be viewed. I think that it was a B. It was a B presentation. I have other issues with what went on with Sony, but their presentation was not the problem.
Okay. So what was your score for Xbox? Because you gave
an A.
Oh, an A? Okay, so Xbox takes that category for you?
Yeah.
All right, so next category, we're going to go exclusive games. This is a special category because, I think it's important because when we talk about, the overall E3 exclusive games. So, Chris, break it down.
So we'll start the opposite order. So PlayStation, I don't know. I didn't really. I mean, Spider-Man looks good, but isn't Resident Evil going to be cross-platform? That was the only other game in that presentation that perfectly got me excited.
They had 4. So like when you think of The Last of Us 2, and you think of the and I forget the samurai name. And
yes, that was
the Ghost of
stunning.
I'm going to butcher it, so I'm not going to say it.
Suku died something. I don't know.
Yeah. So they had go ahead.
I think Sony had exclusives, but for a platform that I feel is currently dominating exclusives, I feel like over 2017 just really rocked us. And I feel like Xbox has been playing second fiddle to Sony this entire generation.
Yes.
It was really disappointing that I don't know what I expected, but I expected more exclusives. So I would probably give them a B because I don't know. Maybe it's not fair to judge them against their past, but in theory, they're the best console out there. In theory, they're on top right now. And I really can't. I should be able to struggle to name the sheer number of exclusives they have, and that was not how I felt at E3. I feel the same about Xbox. They didn't really, because it's not like we're getting Halo now.
Like what exclusives really is the question for Xbox?
I would probably give Xbox a C. I don't. They showed a lot of games, but they're not their games. They're just everybody's games. They just happen to do a good job of getting some world premieres in there, I think.
Yeah.
Nintendo would get the obvious A here. So yeah. I think it would be Xbox in last, Sony in second, and then the A would have to go to Nintendo. The sheer number of exclusives. I did not expect Mario Party. We knew we were getting Smash, but I mean, they own the best IP and they showed off. I think we finally have a real Nintendo console that is pretty much complete. I know there's still some games missing, so if you're still missing Luigi Mansion or Mario, Paper Mario or something like that, but in general, we've seen pretty much all the characters represented from Nintendo.
So as far as exclusive go, I make sure that, like, even if it's coming to PC, because that seems to be a theme that you see with Xbox, because it's especially Play Anywhere, etc. But to start off with Xbox, I give them a D because you look at what exclusive games they have, and that they're really not anywhere to be found pretty much this calendar year, to the best of my memory. So Xbox doesn't have the exclusives by any means. No. That's why we have another category called Building the Future, and that we'll come back to them, obviously again. It's a close battle for me between Sony and between Nintendo, namely because we have some big exclusive titles that from both well-selling, like Last of Us 2, you can't argue that
it
series doesn't just look good, but the presentation. It might not be my series, but the fact is that I know there's a lot of PlayStation fans out there. So I definitely, from an exclusives perspective, because again, like you also have a lot of Square Enix stuff that's like, oh, it's coming to Sony and to PC, right? So it's like, well, I still consider that maybe a Sony platform. I definitely give Sony the A, and I give Nintendo an A plus. Okay. In this case, Nintendo taking the exclusives because obviously the sheer amount of what they've announced at E3, and then that has trickled out from there. In my perspective,
it's a huge quantity of games.
Oh my gosh!
And then they went right into their Treehouse event, right? Because they literally couldn't fit them all.
Right, and then you don't want to. Like at some point, you're like, okay, they spent probably a little bit too much time on Smash.
They did.
It's like, okay, all right, like I'm in. You sold it to me. Same thing when we saw Kingdom Hearts over and over and over again.
Close the deal. All you can do now is ruin it for me.
So obviously, I think for me, it goes to Nintendo, just like you. So I think we both agree in that case, but I definitely give Sony, props for what they did show in this case. And Spider-Man, for me, it's like one of those games that I'm excited about personally.
All right, so interesting games.
Yeah,
games that I feel that this category, just from that statement, games that are really cutting the platform, games that are taking advantage of the hardware and are going to do something unique for the space, either because they're not being shared because they're exclusive, or because they can't run on anything else. So like Switch is the obvious standout here, and it can do things that the other games can't.
Yeah, especially when you can talk about taking it, etc. So interesting games. To kick it off, and then I'll jump over to you here. Is that you have a lot of really cool things that I saw that are cross-platform. So Sony, Xbox, and Nintendo. So this kind of ties into the games that I'm personally interested in. And so what Nintendo showed me are games that I'm absolutely interested in, and they are cross-platform, like Fortnite being a cross-platform game. I give it to Nintendo in this case. I give Nintendo, I give them, a B+, because I'm not interested in Mario Party, and I knew about Smash Brothers. So I give them the B+. I give Xbox a B in this case, because it's that, that's where my friends play. And as far as it goes, and this is kind of the big hurt, is that when we look at those exclusive games, like outside of Spider-Man, there wasn't anything Sony showed me that I was too excited about, and so I give Sony the C. So it's they do have like a lot of interesting games, but if it's a multi-platform game, chances are I'm going to play where my friends are, and that's either on Nintendo Switch and on Xbox.
I would have to say that Xbox and PlayStation here are tied for me, and they both get a B. They both have things that are going to be great on their platform. They both represented games that are going to be cross-platform, and so I could see myself playing either place based on where my friends are. In my current life, most of my friends are on Xbox, but it's not a personal feeling. It's not that I wouldn't go to PlayStation if they all switched.
Right.
So I'd give them both a B. They both had games that looked absolutely stunning. They both had a fair amount of just beauty to be shown, but neither one I really felt showed me a game that I was like, oh my god, I need to drop everything and play that right now. Nothing made me want to say, wow, I'm going to miss days at work. I'm going to not sleep. There wasn't anything that just got me unbelievably excited. Kingdom Hearts is probably the biggest in the bunch, but it's going to be everywhere. I mean, it was the big winner as far as games go in total press across the entire conference. It was in every presentation, it felt like. I would say Nintendo got the A. Nintendo shocked me. I didn't think I would want Mario Party, and then it just showed me the capabilities, and they just flashed to things, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to rewind. Like, did that really just work that easy? So I would say Nintendo has me that excited to play all of these games, play Mario Party. Killer Bee is an incredible arcade game. I can't wait to see how that translates on the Killer Queen Black. I can't wait to see how that translates onto the Switch. I'm really excited for my Switch. That halfway through the presentation, I think I said to you, I was like, I think I just lost $500. Like, I think I have to go buy 10 games now.
Yeah, if not a second Switch.
If not a second Switch.
Because you don't want to have to, you're like, all right, I'm tired of taking turns with Claire.
Yep.
All right, so game reveals. So it looks like Nintendo takes it for you, and then Sony and Microsoft are tied, obviously, for the for interested games. But for game reveals, break it down for me. This is like, it doesn't matter if they're first party or third party. Who had either the most interesting game reveals or what spoke to you personally, as in what they showed off, right? Because they showed a lot of Spider-Man, right? And so if you were somebody who was really looking to see what the gameplay looks like, that would have been something that spoke to you. Or are you more interested in the title, the trailers and the announcements? I'll let you decide how, this is a category and how you want to translate it.
So who gave the game reveals here? That's tough. That's tough because I feel like that interested games kind of bleeds into this category.
It does, a little bit.
The Nintendo did shock me. I did not expect to get... I expected some Pokemon news. I was actually a little disappointed with the lack of Pokemon news in the Nintendo presentation. I don't know where they would have fit it, but I could have used a little more news on when we're getting our full Switch game.
Yeah. No Metroid Prime 4. No Metroid Prime 4. No Animal Crossing. No Luigi's Mansion. No, Pokemon 2019.
There were still a fair number of announcements missing, but not because they didn't do a great job talking about it. It's just that much that I expect out of that platform. So I would probably still give them the A, but I think it's just because they just did so well on everything, that the way they revealed everything, the way that the presentation was flawless in that, as you would expect a recorded presentation to be, in that they were like, and we're going to talk about Mario Party now, and we're going to talk about, and every game they showed me enough gameplay footage and enough render that I felt whether or not I could make a purchase on that game right then. So that's how I kind of read this category, is did they sell me a game? And I think Switch sold me more games than I'll have time to play. PlayStation left me wanting more gameplay footage from Resident Evil. But that's pretty typical of that franchise. They kind of want it to be a surprise. So I don't remember a lot of
Well, we did
games.
see, it feels like they're doing the Resident Evil 4 over-the-shoulder kind of thing, which I was like, well, I love Resident Evil 4.
Turn the lights out in your house, sit way too close to the TV, that game will freak you out. Last of Us looked great. So I would actually... I don't know. I think Sony did a great job with the reveals. I think they did sell me on the games they showed. They just didn't show that many games.
Yeah.
So I'd give them the A as well. The Xbox, I don't think... surprisingly didn't really sell me that many games.
Yeah, there were a lot of trailers, and so how I actually rate the game reveals is who announced, who told me about games that I was not aware of. And that's kind of how I define this category.
Oh.
Yeah, and so that's why I was like,
this would have been Xbox.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. So Xbox takes it because tons of game reveals. Also at the end with the with CD Projekt Red, 2077. The Cyberpunk 2077. Oh, man. So what I've heard about that game, though, is that people saw the trailer. I'm like, what is this? I'm interested. And then people said they've experienced a guided 45-minute demo where somebody else played, and they got to witness the game. And that's what IGN and one IGN's game has shown. I'm like, okay, you got me interested. You actually got me interested in The Witcher, based off of the fact that people were really excited about 2077. Yeah. So from a reveal perspective, I think absolutely Microsoft has an A+, because it was game after game after game, and games that I don't necessarily hadn't heard about. Yeah. Because when you look at Sony and even Nintendo, Fortnite, well, we kind of knew that was coming, was hoping for, there wasn't any game that we hadn't yet at least heard of, Mario Party being an exception. But for them, I definitely give them a C, and I give Sony a C as well, because Resident Evil 2 definitely points for that that remaster itself. Definitely points, but there wasn't a lot of stuff that you could say that the Death Stranding, but it's like, oh, we already knew Death Stranding, but they actually were able to show off gameplay from Death Stranding, and that I think was important, and that's what keeps them out of the D's and the F's categories. But it's that, from what, they were able to take that reveal, and even though we knew about the game, they got to show me enough about something to help answer a lot of questions for it. But I think for me, Nintendo and Sony both get C's, and Microsoft definitely A+, because it was new game. And that's hard because Microsoft goes first. So maybe
that's why I didn't feel it. Maybe I was saving my money.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, okay. But so then building for the future.
Yes, this is an important category.
And in my mind, I read this category as, how does this establish the value of the money I spent on the console today? Make me feel good about my purchase and that it's not going away anytime soon? And how does this make me feel confident that this platform is a platform that I'm going to want to stay on? So building friends on Xbox Live, building friends as my Nintendo Plus friends, building my PlayStation Plus friends. How does this make me feel like I'm going to stay in that ecosystem moving forward, as we one day do eventually talk about future consoles for these? Probably next year or the year after, we can expect to see a new generation of consoles rolling out for these guys. So, what do you think?
Sony is obviously building the future by the fact that how they ran their presentation and what they didn't talk about.
Okay.
And that's the new future begins most likely 2020 with PS5 and Xbox or whatever. So from those categories and that idea is that when I look at it, Sony is smart in that way. So they don't fail on building the future. They get the C because they're setting up expectation for next year and what they are working on, and they're not ready to show that, or it's too early to show that because you don't want to give away, you don't want to show your hand too soon, especially in this game. They lose points for crossplay and not being able to do that, and that's where to transition to that is that I give both Microsoft and Nintendo an A. They're tied for this category for me because they both include crossplay and they both can play well together on certain games, and we're going to see that expand out even further. There's been lots of talks and interesting information that's coming out of these conversations in which that they're working well together. Reggie and Nintendo are happy to work with Microsoft and vice versa. So when it talks about it at the end of the show, basically the two key points for Microsoft that really build the future are they bought 5 new studios. And that is no small feat. I doubt we're going to see games anytime soon from these studios. I think that when we talk about 2020, one of the big, like when we talk about exclusive games, Microsoft is failing in that category. Currently, but when they look at, they're gearing up for the next fight. There's no way you go and you sell another 40 or 80 million units to beat PS4 this generation. That just, it's not going to happen. But when you gear up for the next fight, Microsoft also announced new consoles, plural. Now, why do they do that? Because they also talked about cloud streaming and these kind of technologies. And so Phil Spencer was quoted saying that he wants to make sure that people know they're invested in the future. Microsoft, the full weight of Microsoft is behind them as like when you say am I glad I spent money on this platform? Absolutely. Hopefully they don't screw it up. Yeah. Because it's onto them. If all my stuff carries forward, great. We don't know. Now Nintendo building the future, tons of great games. That system is selling really well. I know that as a gamer with crossplay, with Nintendo and Microsoft playing nice together, that makes me happy to be on both platforms.
Yeah, if you guys don't have a Switch, you've got to at least get your hands on one to try it.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Exactly, and then also games and games and games. So it's like I know that Nintendo is really investing heavily, and the more games that support crossplay, the better. I think gamers win with crossplay. So for me, again, like I said, Microsoft and Nintendo tie in this category. with an A.
I would score exactly the same. I think that PlayStation may have intentionally knocked themselves out of this category very strategically because they're in the lead. There's no reason to show their hand.
Right.
They're not in danger of people throwing their Xbox or their PlayStations in the trash. Yeah. They're not in danger of those people going out and... I mean, they're committed. Their consoles are expensive. Buying an Xbox and a PlayStation is not for everybody. I mean, it's a pricey venture. So I think that they know that they've got this generation. They don't have to show anything more than they did.
Right.
And I think that overall, just in all 6 of these categories, they very much played like somebody who's in the lead and knows it. So when it comes to looking to the future... Yes, they're a powerhouse, but when it comes to just within E3, I have to give them the C here. They just didn't. They intentionally didn't show.
Yeah.
In the context of 2018, they are killing it. But when it comes to the context of E3, they intentionally did not show up to this conference, and I hope it's intentional. Otherwise, they're
it has to be, because in 2019, it allows them to come into 2019 and take these categories. All of them, because then they could say, here's all the reveals, here's all the stuff, here's the future. So they could easily take this easily in 2019.
My fear of that is that by not saying anything, they're allowing the hype machine for next year to really put a lot of pressure, so they better bring it.
Yeah.
They better bring it. They can't do this twice. And so I think Xbox did a great job of showing us, listen, we messed up. We've learned from it. Here's the resources and the time and the effort and the people that we have on board and are bringing on board to fix it.
Yeah.
So if you like your Xbox, don't worry about it. We're going to finish strong on this generation, and we're going to carry you into another generation that's going to be fantastic. That's what they said. And Nintendo, they really just got to say, like, look at us. Like, it speaks for itself. If you're not on a Switch, like, it's incredible.
Nintendo with third-party support is a force to be reckoned with. One of the problems that they've had for a long time is that I got this for Nintendo game to Nintendo game. Now I'm playing so many games that aren't Nintendo on my Switch.
And there's all these little kinks that they're ironing out, saying that I haven't tried it yet, but in Fortnite you just plug your headphones in and it works.
no mobile phone. Yay.
That's something that was already working on Xbox, but like Nintendo's already a winning console without that, so if they can start ironing out the kinks that PlayStation and Xbox have going for them, things like online play, how easy it is to connect with friends, I think that they could be a force to be reckoned with, not even as like an alternative console, but just as a straight-up head-to-head.
Agreed. So that brings us overall. Who is the big winner out of both the press conferences and announcements following the press conferences for E3 out of the manufacturers?
I haven't tallied these up, but I would have to say that just off of everything we talked about, I think that's going to put PlayStation down at the bottom.
Yep.
I think they are the console leader in 2018, and they came into a conference as the big guy on top. It was their fight to lose, and they lost it.
Yeah.
And they may have done it intentionally, and it doesn't take away the exclusives they have. It doesn't take away how many consoles they have sold. It doesn't take away their place in the industry, but it does say that at this conference, they actively just didn't show up.
I look at it kind of like a strategic retreat.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well,
and the games they showed looked great.
Oh,
there just weren't that many of them.
So, what about, where does Nintendo and Xbox fall for you?
I think Nintendo, I expected to do well. I expected them to have a big role in the Kingdom Hearts. It is a surprise, and that didn't happen. So that was the one thing I hoped for.
It would have been nice to see at least one or two, something like that.
To see Kingdom Hearts roll over to the Switch, because that's where I want it, because I want to take it with me. But it would have been nice to see more on Pokemon, so I can critique them on the things that are missing, but ultimately, like you said, I got out of my chair, shouting, looking around, who else saw that? Oh my god, I can't believe this. I need to stop making audible noises because I'm going to miss the next thing because it was just jam-packed. So I think they won this thing overall. And Xbox made great moves. So I think it was a rebuilding year for them, and I think they showed solid promise, right? You got your number one draft picks, you played a good season. You're not going to the championship, but we'll keep our eye on it.
Yeah, I definitely fall with you on the agreement of Sony, and then it comes down to, like, who wins E3 2018, and I look at I look at both and look at the overall scores, and there's just no way in my mind that Xbox can take it. They have the like Xbox One X, like the best place to play physically games, but when I look at all these games that are like PC and PS4, that it's like, why are they giving the snub to Xbox? So Xbox has a lot of work to do.
Oh yeah.
When we talk about this generation or next generation, they have a lot of relationships that they need to build or buy. You know?
Yeah, why can't I get the old Kingdom Hearts on Xbox?
Exactly.
Sony just flexed and made that happen.
Yeah, and I'm sure there is some kind of number that somebody would,
yes,
there's a number that fixes that, and it shows to me like that. But the announcements they set make me go, okay, I'm really interested to see really where the next generation starts, and that tease I think was very smart. But Xbox cannot win this. Overall, Nintendo is the clear winner in my book, because when I look at just within the next 12 months what games I'm going to be playing, it makes me wish there was more of these games. But when I look at I'm going to be playing Smash Brothers. I'm going to be playing Pokemon. I'm going to be playing Octopath Traveler July 13th. Don't forget it.
They showed the most IP. They came and they flexed.
Nintendo, like I said, is as a platform that when they have third-party support, they are forced to be reckoned with, because they have one of the best IPs. They own intellectual property. It's insane, and you can't ignore it. So for me, it's easily a clear winner. They're probably going to get more of my money over the next 12 months than any other platform. But I am excited to see what Sony brings with PS5. I am excited to see what how the next generation decides to fold out.
It'll be interesting to see more VR next year. The game developers talked a lot about VR for the fact that Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation didn't talk as much about it as I would have expected. I would have expected the three of them to at least kind of bring that conversation in. PlayStation to have, they had VR support, but I expected to see more VR, so that's something I'd like to see more next year.
That is surprising, because I know that they've in the past spent a lot of time with it. But I know people who are really excited about Beat Saber for PlayStation when they talk about a VR game, and I was like, that actually looks really cool.
Infamous in VR on PlayStation. So I think there's a lot we could expect to see out of 2019.
Yeah.
I don't know that Nintendo has enough left in their back pocket to do this 2 times in a row, but
I don't know, man.
Who knows?
When you talk about what they didn't show,
who knows?
They could show up next year and just everybody who was disappointed by what they didn't announce,
they announced. They could.
So I leave the question to you guys. What are your ratings? Who won E3 based off the press conferences and the information, obviously being the platform holders being the focus. The categories again were the conference presentation, exclusive games, game reveals, interested games, building the future, and then overall. Sound off in the comments below. Love to hear from you. Love to have that conversation.
All right. Well, guys, my name's Chris.
My name's Brian.
This has been Work to Game. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
You guys ever wondered what's behind me? Let's go ahead and take a look. There's some Warhammer and gaming stuff. There's some German beer steins. There's a rainbow ball shooting out of his face unicorn, some Star Wars toys, some different architecture projects, some Work to Game mugs, one with a chocobo on it, some Jeeps, and then my face, and then the first skyscraper I worked on in my first job out of college. So, yeah.